Hi, my dear Astro family. Here is part three of Uranus in Gemini breakdown for all 12 signs. So we are going to start with Libra rising sign. So Libra, this Uranus transit is going to be taking place in your ninth house. Maybe for the last 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your eighth house. So it was heavy, deep, or often kind of like a private journey through transformation, shared resources, and dealing with your psychological shadows. Uranus wanted to liberate you from that. But as Uranus enters Gemini, the clouds are kind of parting. The planet of disruption, the planet of genius is moving into your ninth house, and it is telling you to look up to the horizon. For the next 7 years, your worldview, your beliefs, your hunger for adventure are pretty much getting a massive upgrade. The ninth house is the house of higher mind because Uranus is the modern ruler of your fifth house, the house of creativity, romance, self expression. This transit is about a radical liberation of your joy. Some of you might become grandparents actually with fifth and ninth house activations together. So today, let's just talk about the sudden travel opportunities, intuitive hits that change your philosophy on life, and why your creative voice is about to pretty much go global. And if you have felt like you have been stuck, kind of like in a waiting period, your world is about to get a whole lot bigger. Trust me on that. Now, in the meantime, let me invite you to my new predictive course. It's going to be about 55 weeks, and I'm going to be teaching you 25 plus timing techniques so that you can decode your own future alone as well. If that's in your interest, you can do that through my membership program, which is available on my website, AstroViktor.com. And also, please don't forget to like and share the video with others. But let's talk about the ninth house a little bit more. Ninth house is a house connected to the mind. So that gets an upgrade. Uranus is the planet of disruption. So there are certain type of philosophical disruptions here, or maybe sudden travel opportunities, but it's about gaining wisdom. Often we study, for example, at a certain age because we want to achieve a better career. So that even a possibility is. And because Uranus is the ruler of your fifth house, we want to study something because we want to have joy in life. We want to become self-employed. The ninth house is where we seek meaning. With Uranus here, you are no longer interested in dogma or even traditional beliefs. You want the truth and you want it now. So expect sudden changes in what you want to study. You might have been on one path for years and suddenly you receive that intuitive hit. Drop it. Drop it all for more of an futuristic subject. So, for example, let's say you want to become an astrologer or aviation or linguistics, for example. You are looking for information that electrifies you. It's not just about a degree to kind of hang on the wall. This is something that might be setting up your new career path. If you are a younger generation, this could even talk to you about dropping out of school, switching schools, and so on. The ninth house is the house of journey, the long distance travel. So it might be an opportunity to move abroad or to take a trip that changes your life completely. These are, if it's a vacation, because the fifth house rules holidays. This wouldn't be just a standard vacation, though. This would be a adventure where you meet people who completely disrupt your old way of thinking. So this could be, for example, a new romantic endeavor as well with a foreigner. That's not just Uranus, obviously, is the modern ruler of your fifth house, but also we've got quite a heavy seventh house happening for you as well. So surely relationship could be a big topic for you and or a beginning of that. The ninth house is also about publishing and sharing, and Gemini is a sign of communication. So this means taking a big idea and then kind of broadcasting them. So you might suddenly start a YouTube channel, newsletters, a podcast, Imagine this as your voice is kind of having a universal frequency. So you can have a breakthrough, for example, with these topics. Now, because Uranus is the modern ruler of your fifth house, and that's a super creative house, but also it's about joy, romance, the spark. So, because I mean, it could indicate your art, your hobbies, kind of like become your new religion. You might find a way to monetize your creative talents, maybe by teaching others, something to do with the unique perspective. Or your romantic life is getting an upgrade as well, but through shared wisdom. So imagine that you have a boyfriend and you guys decide to relocate, for example, or you might fall for someone from a completely different culture, or someone who introduces you to a new radical way of viewing the world. It's not necessarily about like looking for a partner as much as kind of like looking for a fellow traveler where we can be kind of like children again in a way. Now, of course, this could be Uranus is a generational planet. And depending on where Uranus comes from, depending on what age group you are, but if you have got Uranus, for example, in Scorpio, then think about it this way. Natally, I mean, that's a financial opportunity. So, a financial opportunity to have a better life, for example. So, I'm relocating to be able to find a better work, for example. Or Uranus, you might have had to learn to have disruptions, for example, when it comes to money and value. So this could talk to us about due to certain type of disruptions in the financial world, in your investments, you are shifting your mind. Now, both the ninth house and the second house are really connected to values. So it really feels like that you are going to be changing your value about a lot of things, but also, it says that your value is very much tied to your knowledge right now. So you might stop trying to work for money and start monetizing on your wisdom. This could actually indicate that you want to be investing money into your knowledge as well, becoming kind of like an intellectual authority. And then you might teach a course on something you previously potentially kept private. You might have got Uranus, for example, in Sagittarius, then it means that you are going to be experiencing an opposition. So, with natal Uranus in your third house, this is about sudden changes, a series of sudden changes in your neighborhood, the way you deal with everyday errands and so forth, the way you communicate with people. So maybe you stop, for example, focusing on local community and then you want to go global. The third house is facts, the ninth house is the truth. So you might realize that small talk and daily tasks are distracting you from your vision, the great work. So you can decide to go back to school, move away from your hometown to find a more stimulating environment. Of course, it would be an upgrade from local to global. You might be having Uranus in the fourth house, for example, natally, in the sign of Capricorn. In that case, this would be kind of like a digital nomad lifestyle. So maybe it's gonna, or if you have got Uranus in the fifth house, then this could talk to you about a viral project, which might become quite chaotic as well at the same time. Or it's the moment when your weird hobbies kind of like find a worldwide audience. So what I'm trying to say is that you're gonna have to be looking at where natal Uranus is in your natal chart. Of course, some generations, if you were born before 1975-ish, then you might have got Uranus in Libra. For example, that would be your first house. And in that case, this would talk to you about you shifting your body, you changing your opinion about how the body should look like, and so forth. Now, the ninth house is big and Uranus is fast. So this can really kind of leads to this bit of spiritual vertigo if you aren't careful. We can get into that know-it-all type trap as well, because you will be getting so many intuitive hits that you might feel like you have the only truth. So be careful not to become, too attached to your new belief systems. This is about you having to remain open. Gemini is about variety, staying curious, not too rigid. There could be a bit of a fightiness coming with this as well, because you might feel or you might experience a sudden urge to drop everything and move to, I don't know, Bali, for example. While that might be great, make sure you aren't just running away from, let's say, eighth house responsibilities you haven't finished. And that could be karma, that could be finances, and so forth. And with Uranus in the ninth house, legal matters, travel documents can cause certain type of sudden hiccups as well. So always double check the details, the paperwork before you fly into, the Uranian future. So I think Libra, the world is calling you to expand. So this 7-year transit is about letting your creative light shine through kind of like a much larger lens. Don't be afraid to change your mind about what the truth means to you. And if you feel that sudden itch to travel or to learn something new, to relocate, well, do let me know in the comment box below. Where is the mind taking you? That might be one of the major questions that you want to be focusing on. So, and I hope to see you on my predictive course, which might be super excited for you with the Uranus in the ninth house. Scorpio rising sign. So let's have a look at how this might be playing out for you. Uranus will be going through your eighth house. So, Scorpio, you are the masters of deep dive. You aren't afraid of the dark, the taboo, or the intense. So, firstly, therefore, I don't think you need to be afraid of Uranus going into your eighth house. Yes, this is a very private house. This is high stakes area of the chart. So, and it gets a bit of a high voltage surge, but it feels like it's a great awakening for you. It's about you getting rid of secrets, the inner demons, and even financial dependence, for example, so that finally you can go through this very deep soul transformation. So that for the next 7 years, you experience of intimacy, finances. It's a psychological rebirth, and it is getting a radical upgrade. The eighth house is where we merge with others, financially as well as emotionally. So because Uranus is the modern ruler of your fourth house, the house of home, this transit is a total revelation from your foundation. So let me walk you through this sudden financial shift or intuitive hits that might be helping you breaking generational curses and why the chaos in your private life is actually clearing the way for a much lighter, kind of like freer version of yourself. It sounds exciting, isn't it? But let me invite you to my upcoming 55-week course on predictive techniques. I will be teaching more than 25 predictive techniques so that you can map out your own future or you can support your life better, because this is a tool that I think everyone should have. So check it out on my website, AstroViktor.com. You can do that through membership on a very discounted price. But I also would like to ask you to like, share the video, and make a comment if possible. So the eighth house, is like a black box. With Uranus here, things you usually keep hidden or locked away, it's getting hacked. And it is getting hacked by that thunderstorm, by the light of awareness. So, therefore, expect some sudden changes when it comes to shared resources. This includes taxes, inheritance, spouse's income or debts. You might receive that lightning bolt of money out of nowhere, or you might decide to cut ties with a financial obligation that has felt like a chain. You are meant to be learning to manage money, but in a more Gemini way, which is fast, diversified, maybe involving digital assets or tech. So therefore, this could talk to you about investment opportunities also. This is also a psychological software upgrade. Scorpio is the sign of transformation anyway. And then the eighth house is a Scorpionic house, and Uranus makes it Saturn. So you get these intuitive hits, maybe during a therapy session or a dream, that you have got certain type of old traumatic experiences and it needs to be healed. So imagine this as a circuit breaker, and that flips. And then all of a sudden there is light again because I'm going there to switch it back on, right? Otherwise, let's say I cannot use my, I don't know, oven and stuff like that. So, and then you flip it back, and then that's when something hits you. So, and then it's all about you having to realize that you don't have to brood over the past anymore. Maybe I just can let it go. So, this is a mental liberation because this is Gemini, and it might be connected to your own family. So, you can get to know secrets about family. Also, this is an intimacy reset as well. Like how you bond with others is changing. And if you have been used to intense, heavy scorpionic attachments. Well, Gemini is a lot lighter with Uranus, so it's more of an intellectual energy. So you can find partners who can talk as well as they can feel at the same time. And this is also potentially some of you can um, liberate themselves from certain type of marriages as well, though. Because for me, the eighth house and the second house are connected to divorce. Now, Uranus rules your fourth house. This is your home, your family, your emotional security. So it really feels like that uh, it's the transformation of your home environment. So the work you do on yourself right now literally heals not only you, but potentially your family line as well. So you might uncover a family secret or a hidden piece of information that finally explains something about your upbringing. Or your living situation might go through a disruption, though. So this can be a sudden move, a massive renovation, or a change in who you live with. The sense of safety is moving away from a physical house towards more of an internal sense of freedom. I can imagine, for example, with Uranus coming here, that you are going to be making investments, especially if natally Uranus is coming from your second house. So it means that it's in the sign of Sagittarius. But if you've got Uranus, for example, in the first house in Scorpio, that would talk to you about a major body transformation, for example. So one of the questions that you might want to ask yourself is, what would I like to upgrade in my life? What do I have to liberate myself from? But if you were born with Scorpio, you were born as a disruptor. And maybe you have always felt like an outsider. Now, Uranus moving into the eighth house, finally, maybe you can accept that you are unique and you are an outsider. And you take that rebel energy and apply it to your deepest fears. So you might stop worrying about how you look to others, or maybe you're just focusing purely on your psychological power. This is about mastery of your own shadows. It's about using your life experiences to help others through their own sudden transformation as well, especially if you were born with Uranus in Capricorn. Then in that case, this is about that. Then natal Uranus is in your third house. With second house, that if you have a Uranus in the second house, it means in Sagittarius, You might be tailored already to sudden changes in your finances. But you've had to learn that your value isn't tied to your bank account. Now Uranus moving into the eighth house opposes your natal position. So this is about my money versus our money. And maybe we decide to merge finances with someone, or conversely, to pull your assets out of a joint venture just to regain your freedom. That's Sagittarius. So it's an upgrade from handling my cash to kind of mastering shared wealth. And if you have got Uranus in Capricorn, that's about mental power. So uh, this is um, this is a mental power. This is having a powerful idea, which I'm going to be working on, and then I will be ready to kind of like launch it to others. If you've got Uranus in your fourth house, this is about finding ways of monetizing property or family assets, maybe using some type of technology, right? This is finding a genius way to create security for the future. And you can have a lot of intuitive hits about investments, also maybe property, maybe crypto, and all those type of stuff. There is challenges to this as well, though. You know, the eighth house is a water house and Gemini is air. So air and water, they don't necessarily mix well. So therefore, Uranus can feel like a windstorm over a deep ocean, and it can get a bit choppy. So, because your eighth house is being electrified, your senses are on kind of like an overdrive. So be careful not to let intuitive hits to turn into paranoia. Not everything is a secret conspiracy. Please remind yourself of that. With Uranus being here, Saturn is a key word. So don't gamble with money you can't afford to lose. Because let's say you are getting into crypto or new investments, do it with a Gemini mindset. And that's about diversify, staying light, and looking for the data. And you might get even sudden urge to run away when things get too close, for example, with someone. So remember that Uranus in Gemini wants communication as a bridge from a relationship point of view. I would say that's typically true for people who were born with Uranus in Scorpio or Uranus in Sagittarius, because that's a first and the second house combination for you. So, Scorpio, you are being invited to trade your heavy armor for kind of like this high-tech light suit. And this transit is trying to make the transformation in your life a lot faster, a lot smarter, a lot more liberating. So I think do not be afraid to look into that black box of your life. You might find that what you thought, is kind of like a monster, and you have to be saying goodbye to those ideas. That inner genius within you is waiting to be released. So let it be a psychological breakthrough or a very good shift in your finances. But do let me know how you feel. Are you feeling lighter already? Are you going towards this major transformation? Are you preparing for that? And I hope to see you in my upcoming 55-week course of predictive techniques. That should be a blast. Now let's move on to Sagittarius rising sign. Sagittarius is moving into your seventh house. Uranus is moving into your seventh house, I mean. And, you are a natural explorer. You love freedom. You always have got big ideas. You are kind of like an open book. And Uranus moves into Gemini. So there is a revolution happening in a very far away land from you because it's in the opposing house. It's happening right across the table from you. So the Great Awakener is coming into the house of partnership. So this is going to bring certain type of disruptions in the lives of your partner. For the next 7 years, your one-on-one relationships, both romantic and professional, are kind of like getting an upgrade there. Because the seventh house is the house of other, and Uranus is the modern ruler of your third house. So the way you communicate with clients or with business partners or with one-on-one relationships, it looks like it's going to change. Like how I am trying to reach out to my clients, how I'm going to be selling them things is going to change quite significantly. This is about rewiring of how you connect. And yeah, it might be sudden relationship shifts, it might be intuitive hits about who you should align with, and maybe it brings certain type of chaos in your social contracts. But this is actually becoming a bridge to your personal freedom either way. So if you have felt like your relationships have been stagnant or predictable, get ready. The lightning is about to strike, and therefore it might lead to a divorce or a walking out of a contractual agreement. But let me invite you to my upcoming new course, 55 Weeks on Predictive Techniques. It is available on my website, AstroViktor.com, and it is available through my membership program as well for a lot cheaper. And I'm going to be teaching in this course 25 plus timing techniques so that you can map out your own future. But let's just go back to that seventh house, relationship disruptions, sudden alliances, as well as radical honesty. The seventh house is where we meet the world through another person. So with Uranus here, the traditional rules of engagement are being thrown out of the window. So therefore, sudden changes in your relationship status, getting married, getting divorced, it doesn't just mean breakup, though. It often means kind of like the lightning bolt meeting with someone who is completely unlike anyone you have ever dated before. And you might find yourself being attracted or drawn to these Uranian types. So, eccentrics, geniuses, people from vastly different backgrounds, people who are digital nomads, for example. And all of a sudden, you might even see that your partner is changing their values. Maybe while we had Uranus in the sign of Taurus, maybe your partner was stubborn about relocating, moving away, and so forth. And all of a sudden, they kind of come out with that idea. Maybe they just decide to leave their jobs behind, and so forth. This isn't about just romance, you can have the a lot of collaborations in business with this as well. Um, Maybe you meet someone just by accident, but it leads to a genius partnership, and then we are going to be launching a new project together. It's kind of like looking for partners in crime, people who are fast thinking and flexible, potentially as you are. Because Gemini is the sign of variety and air, so you might find that you or your partner suddenly need a lot more kind of breathing room. So this could indicate, for example, that we are going to live apart and we are only going to be meeting at the weekend. It's somehow moving from codependent structure towards more of an independent structure. Uranus ruling your third house could actually indicate that your sibling, potentially you have got a business with, is also, let's say, moving on with their life. So therefore, you have to learn independence. But also, you are learning that a healthy relationship is one where both people have the space to be their kind of weird themselves or weird selves. Now, with Uranus ruling your third house, the modern ruler of it, and third house is speech, siblings, daily data. So this is a natural trine, of course, but this could talk to us about like the quality of the conversations that we are having. Maybe you can no longer tolerate small talk in your partnership, and you need a partner who is also kind of like mentally a match for us. You might find that a sibling or a close peer becomes a business partner, or that a sudden change in your sibling's life affect your personal relationships. Maybe your sibling wants to relocate and then you want to relocate, but one of the partners maybe doesn't want to. But this can give you a lot of fertile ground where your relationship actually can grow because Uranus says we have to be bringing excitement to the current relationships that we have. The way we have been managing the relationship is not going to work. So let's reinvent something that we have already built together. Now, from a generational point of view, you might have got Uranus in the sign of Scorpio, which is your 12th house. In that case, yes, this would talk to us about a relationship breakup, for example. But it's about a disruption in your subconscious. It's about how you have been handling your inner chaos. It's a spiritual awakening. So this spiritual awakening is coming into your partnership. So maybe, you know what, I'm going to be opening up about my secrets towards a partner, or I'm going to need someone who can handle the darker side of me as well. It's an upgrade from private struggle to more of a public authenticity. So it can mean that you find a partner who is going to help you finally voice the things that you have kept hidden for years. If you have got Uranus in the first house, in the sign of Sagittarius, that's about you being a rebel. And then now, it's going to be opposing you. So this is me versus we. It's a bit of a standoff there. So with Uranus in the first house natally, you always had an extreme need for independence. And maybe that has made it hard to get or to let others get close to you. So you might decide to compromise. Obviously not by losing yourself, but by finding a partner who is just as independent as you are. So it's kind of like moving from a lone wolf to more of a dynamic duo. But you might be having Uranus in your second house, in the sign of Capricorn. So you are reinventing what commitment looks like. You are potentially making some contractual agreements with others, or you are walking away from a contractual agreement. Um, if Uranus is in your third house, then you might meet your partner through a genius tech platform, a local education, or a workshop, or something like that. This is about smart ways to connect. You might even think about creating an application where these business people kind of can get together. Now, the seventh house is air, Gemini is air. So this is actually not necessarily the most difficult position, but it can make it a bit flighty if you aren't careful. It's like a bit of a boredom here. Because Uranus is fast, Gemini is fast, seventh house is a fast house as well because it's airy. So suddenly we can leave a relationship just because it feels boring for a week. So don't throw away a good bond for a temporary spark, basically. This could show, Gemini is a bit detached. So you might experience ghosting or being ghosted by people who can't handle this high voltage energy of yours. And then it can leave you nervous, it can leave you a bit angry. But if something has to end, it has to end, right? So don't chase it. Uranus is like clearing out someone who wasn't ready for your upgraded version. And with the third house ruler in the seventh, watch out for verbal lightning bolts because you might win an argument, but you might lose a partner in the meantime. Gemini tries to use a lot of wit to solve the problems. So rather than kind of like shocking the loved ones. I think you are being invited to find your intellectual twin in the world, and you can do that. You can make these connections a lot faster, smarter, in a much more liberating way. Yeah, don't be afraid of the chaos in your social circle. It's the universe rearranging the furniture to make room for new people to enter, to create a new tribe. And if you have been feeling a sudden shift in your relationships or new electric connections, well, do let me know in the comment box below. Are you excited about Uranus moving into your seventh house, or are you expecting a bit of a chaos? I would love to hear about that. And I hope to see you on my 55-week predictive course. That should be an exciting journey for you. So see you soon, and then I will be back with the last three remaining signs. Bye bye.